Good to talk to you today, mate, and all the very best. Coming up after the break on 133 your calls anytime. I'm going to talk to Theo Zographos, who is a Monash councillor. We're talking the US election. You know he's going to be voted back, don't you? Oh, yes, he will. And we'll discuss all since we'd love to take your calls. We're live from the Australian Open, just outside Kira Arena. If you're in the area, come past and say good day. We'd love to see you here at Melbourne Park. And your calls next on the Weekend Break. I have with me on the line Theo Zographos, who's a Monash councillor. Theo is probably too young to even recognise the name of that great Australian band. Theo, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Grub, I am loving the Australian music, but I was going to say what was that song? Because I do not recognise it.
All right, thank you, I will. From their second album, It's Too Easy. It was the Mighty Easy Beats, and Sad, Lonely and Blue is the name of the song, and featuring Harry Vander on a beautiful 12-string guitar. I can say no more about it.
How ironic, because once I was on your program and I had the Easy Beats cover of Dancing in the Street as the intro song. So all good things come around in cycles, don't they, Grub?
Absolutely, Theo. How's your Australia weekend going?
Yeah, good. You're not going to believe it, but I cheated on Monash. I went to another council's event. Last night I was at the Whitehorse Australia Day concert, which was incredible.
That's like going to a different hairdresser. It's like playing up on your wife. What's going on?
I should say that there was no Monash event at the same time. We did our citizenship ceremony in the morning, and in the evening I was at Whitehorse. But it was a great new thing for me, and good result for Whitehorse. Good stuff to all involved.
And are you glad that there's only another 11 months to go before we start arguing about Australia Day again, Theo?
Well, thankfully, we didn't have any issues at Monash and not at Whitehorse either. But look, I think there will always be the debate. It's about, who's in government at the time and the type of tone that debate takes, which I think, to their credit, it's been pretty good in the last few years, but you never know what the future holds. And sometimes the minority can have a loud microphone.
Do they what? Actually, our morning host, Tom Elliott, said the other day, I think it was his first program, why don't we just have a plebiscite and just get it over and done with? And then it's, yes or no. Do you want it or not? Yes, no, whatever. Make a decision, and then we'll just move on. And that means councils and everyone have to join in and just put up with it, whatever the people decide, please. Because the debate's just, it's just endless and horrible. I mean, I know it fills, columns and talkback radio and what we're doing now and everything else. But we're not going to talk about Aussie politics today because we're talking about what's happening in America. And I've been saying it, and people have been saying, it won't happen. He'll be in jail. He's going to be fined. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. No, he won't. He will end up the president again because that's what they like in America.
Well, he's got all the attention, Grub. He knows how to work the media and all his supporters. And as we're seeing, he's won 2 internal election contests, New Hampshire and Iowa. However, the whole campaign is just getting started, and anything can happen between now and the convention, which I think is in August. It might be in September, somewhere around there, but certainly in a number of months, Grub. And if you look at it, and really, what is
when you say anything can happen? What's he going to? How's he going to outrageous? What another porn star's going to put her hand up? He's going to be fined for bad behaviour. He's going to be threatened with jail for doing something. He'll still be president, Theo. He'll still be president. Sorry, but he will.
I have to analyse this, mate, because that's what you pay me for. But if you look at the delegate count, he's on 32 delegates. Nikki Haley's on 17. It's not as big a gap as it could be, and she hasn't won a contest yet. So she has a lot of support with the establishment. So basically, those that can't stand Trump, which is, obviously a lot of the country, but also those that have influence in politics.
Yeah.
And they're looking for anyone else. So they will stick with her for as long as she wants to remain in the contest. And she also is cashed up grub. They announced the numbers yesterday in terms of how much the candidates raised, and she raised more than Trump. Well, not her, but the super PAC that's associated with her raised more than he did in the year ending December last year. So she's cashed up. If she stays in the race long enough, she might be able to make the gap smaller on delegate counts. And if you win some of those bigger states like California, Texas, etc., you can really win some large batch of delegates. So that's the hope. But I think you're right. I think he's going to get the gig. And the question then becomes, does Joe Biden recontest? So we'll have to wait and see.
Do you reckon, look, when is too old, too old? We've had this debate before. I'd love calls on this. Do you reckon Trump's a certainty? 133-693. I've just got this feeling that there are so many people in this strange world of ours who are sick of being lectured to by the so-called minority and the loud minority and everything else. Trump's their ideal pushback. He just stands up and says, oh, no, I'm for you. I'm on your side. I'm one of you. Look, we all know he's not. We all know he's done dreadful things. Nobody cares. How many times have we read in the paper, oh, yeah, Trump will end up in jail on this? And people going mad on Facebook or social media about Trump this, Trump that, pointing out his hair, pointing out all the dreadful things he said, all the dreadful things he's done. And yet, people who live in the middle of America that we don't know and who've got an American flag and put their hand over their heart and sing the national anthem, they'll vote for him. I'm sorry, but they will.
That's his base. Well, you're right. That's his base. But the question then becomes, can he keep their support and their, I guess, you have to get them to vote though, Grub. You have to get them to actually go to the polls in November. So they can love him and, have a poster on the wall and sing the national anthem with a Trump portrait. Yeah. But will they feel obligated enough that it's so important that he has to get another term, as opposed to saying, maybe I'll just stay home and watch a bit of the NFL on TV rather than go out on a Tuesday.
Yeah, but I reckon that's how he got in last time, because 4 years before he got in last time, he was a national joke. And he got in because those people actually said, well, I am going to do something this time. I'm actually going to go out and have a vote.
Yeah.
I reckon he's a certainty. It's dreadful.
No, you're right. You're right. And, I said to my friends, DeSantis has no hope. First of all, governors don't have a good record. But second of all, he needs Trump to basically withdraw to have any chance, because Trump is first of all, his name ID is through the roof. So you're going up against candidates that don't have high name ID. Yep. And second of all, Trump will do anything. He will, even if he loses the nomination, he might still run as an independent. You never know what he can do. He's unpredictable. That's right. So someone that's willing to do that, you can't ever count them out.
Yeah, and, he lost the last election, but has convinced a lot of people that he won it. It was like...
In fact, I saw some polling out of New Hampshire, exit polling, and that was the key reason why people voted for him and voted for Haley. So that is, people that think that Trump won the election voted for him. People that think that he didn't voted for Haley. It's actually a key theme in US politics.
Extraordinary. And he thought Novak Djokovic beat Sinner the other night. I mean, it doesn't matter. And he would convince people that he did.
Rod Laver was saying, I saw on the news that, you should give Djokovic the trophy last week or something. Well, obviously, not even Rod Laver is right all the time.
No, absolutely not. I'd love to take calls on this. Theo Zographos, I love talking to you on the weekend break. Monash councillor, of course, and with a great interest in politics. 133-693. What do you think? Do you agree with me? And to a degree, Theo, Trump will be the president of the United States, and all the hand-wringing, people jumping up and down, screaming, yelling, going mad on Facebook, papers and everything else, and all the stuff chucked at him won't make a scrap of difference. It hasn't so far. Hello, Stormy Daniels, by the way, if you're listening. Please, I mean, how much more awful stuff can be said and allegedly done, and yet the bloke will be president next time round? Because that's the sort of bloke they'd vote in. What are your thoughts? I'd love your calls for Theo Zographos, Monash councillor, 133 693. Give us a call next here on the Weekend Break.
People have a ball. Now the rock out on Saturday night. You can hear the guitar play. Oh, rock, was free, man.
My special guest on the Weekend Break this afternoon, Theo Zographos, Monash Councillor. We're talking about the US election, and it is just so fascinating. If Trump does get in, Theo, how, and I think he will, and I'd love to know what you think, 133 693, keep those calls coming through. Why do you think, if he does get in and why, this is the question I'm asking our listener. If he does, and I think he will, how does that affect us, Theo, as compared to, say, Biden or somebody else getting in?
Well, of course, he was quite insistent on trade relations with China being a bit more aggressive in the US's favour. And obviously he also wanted to, in his words, bring peace in North Korea and these sort of stuff. So things will definitely change. I think definitely the focus for him will be on, from what I understand, his domestic revenge, getting his revenge on his opponents domestically. That's how he's been putting it. But for us, I think obviously we will work with him or anyone else who's elected. And we will always be putting Australia's interests first, regardless of, you might remember that phone call he had with Malcolm Turnbull some years ago. And, you know, things might get a little bit, I guess, colourful from time to time. But I actually think, Rob, his focus will very much be on just getting revenge on his opponents, which is a shame and not the appropriate way a leader should be conducting himself. But of course, as I said earlier, he's the front runner, and you know what they say about front runners, mate? They have everything to lose, and I don't think it's over yet.
Okay, that's all right. That's fine. I wonder what people think. 133 693. Robert, good afternoon to you.
Oh, g'day. There's a few points I'd like to make. Firstly, I don't see why everyone thinks Trump's so scandalous compared to so many politicians over there. Remember Hillary smashed up a hard drive, deleting 33,000 emails, etc., etc. This guy gets indicted if he flies over a Democratic state. The thing is with Trump, he'll get that economy back on track. He had electricity down to 10 cents a kilowatt, gas down to $1.87 a gallon, biggest, highest employment of black population in the history of the United States. It's for 2 Nobel Prizes. He had all the people talking to him. He flew to North Korea. He had the balls to do it. The indictments, to get rid of him, I mean, you've been indicted because you overestimated your assets to try and get a bank loan. Who hasn't done that? Et cetera, et cetera. And the guy, he's stopped having China pushing them around and said, no, $100 billion in tariffs he got out of that and put it back into the farmers. I used to spend a lot of holidays over in Arkansas throughout my life. Yeah. And the people there, all they do love America. It's not like we love Australia. But the joint's getting trashed. 50,000 refugees, don't even know who they are, crossing into the border. You know, the last fentanyl death toll has hit 107,000 people in 1 year. And if that was any other government in the world, they would say, we've got to stop these people coming in and trashing our country. There's something very sinister going on here because Biden is not running America. He's a puppet. Could you imagine that man running anything? There's people behind him with something going on because anyone who lets a border open like that, it's ruined the country. Simple as that.
Look, I think, yeah. Look, I think we have to obviously, there's a difference between whether Trump achieved some good things as president. There's no doubt that he did, and he was only in there for 4 years. The difference then is his character as a person, as a potential leader, but also I'm just looking at the campaign as it currently sits, right, and just trying to see what are the possible outcomes. But you raised some good points, and I think that's pretty much a sentiment of his supporters.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the fact that I think people, a lot of people have this mentality, we're being pushed around by a noisy minority, woke behaviour, so-called woke behaviour. We're not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to say that. We're made to do this. We're made to think that. We're made to do. And here's a guy that thumbs his nose on all of that, breaks every rule in the book. Well, he's our man. I just think he's a man for right now, for what's happening there right now. I don't think he's a fabulous person at all, but he will get back. And that's my thoughts. Rod, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Grubby. Look, you're spot on. I thought Trump would get in the last election, the one when he did get in, and everyone thought I was mad.
Yeah.
If you go back to Nostradamus' predictions, he predicts that Trump will be re-elected. Now, it will be a rough ride, but he will be President of America. Now, if you can talk about what you want with Nostradamus and say it's fiction, it's not.
Right.
He predicted the Queen Elizabeth's death to the day and to the month. He also has predicted, and I'll give you this example, he's also predicted that King Charles will abdicate. Now, mark my words, it will happen.
Hey, Rod, just in preparation for the men's final tomorrow night, what does Nostradamus say about that?
He didn't travel there.
Oh, goodness.
That's too small.
Thank you, Theo. I was going to ask him about next week's Tattslotto numbers as well while I had him there.
Powerball, yeah, definitely.
But Rod, thank you. Look, I just think it's the mood of the people, Rod. I just think that's the mood that a lot of people are in. I think if we had a Trump-type person here in Australia, I think we'd be voting he or she in as well, no doubt, because people are sick of being told what and how and being pushed around by a so-called noisy minority. You've seen the outrage over Australia Day when most people would rather Australia Day just stay the way it is and everybody shut up and go home. But we're being told, no, you've got to say this and you've got to think that and everything. Look,
do you think, Rob, if Biden was to not recontest, would that be a factor in the results, or do you think regardless of who the Democratic candidate is, Trump will win?
You know what? I really think regardless. I've got to be in my bonnet over this. Rod, thank you for your call. Hello, Carol.
Oh, hi, Grubby. I just think that last caller was a very good caller.
Yeah.
Number two, I think them going after Donald Trump the way they are is an absolute witch hunt.
Well, the more they go after him, the more people like him, Carol. I mean, it doesn't matter what we throw at him and what he's so-called done and said and everything else. People don't take any notice. And all the celebrities that are going to go and live in Canada, are they there yet? I'm not sure. But it's interesting, Carol, isn't it? The more people seem to attack Trump, Theo, the more people come out in support of him.
Can I ask, Carol, I agree when it comes to politicians, certainly there's definitely been a witch hunt. But what about when it's the court system? Do you think it's still the same scenario if he's been found?
No.
Right.
I think the court system over there is not right because every time they take him up for something, they win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, now, I just think, look, he says what he thinks and, yeah.
Well, I don't see that as a great point. I mean, look, there was a certain Chancellor of Germany who said what he thought. Didn't make him a top bloke, Carol. We all know that. But I just think the mood of the people at the moment, he will get in. It's a fascinating one. More calls after the break. I have as my special guest today on the Weekend Break, a friend of the show, Theo Zographos, Monash councillor. We're talking about the US election and your calls, 133 693. Theo Zographos is a Monash councillor. He's talking US election, of course, and your calls, we're loving them. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Hey, guys, how you going?
Good.
So, Grubby, I think we might, and I'm not patronising you, I think where Theo might be able to explain it better is that the independents and the women, because it keeps sprouting about Roe v. Wade, the Taylor Swift group is piling on. They're motivated to vote. That's what Theo's saying. They're motivated to vote. Hillary got 3 million more votes than him. Joe got 7 million more votes than him. And the economy under Joe, the stock market's booming, 13 million new jobs, lowest Latino and lowest black unemployment rates, and petrol's gone down to chase inflation. But
Stephen,
the optics are bad because Joe looks like he's asleep.
Exactly, Stephen. I hear you, and I agree with you 100%, and I know all of those different stats, but I've still got a feeling in my loins that I've just got a feeling that they are crazy enough to put this man back in, and possibly will, Stephen. We'll see how we go. But Theo, always a fascinating discussion. Good to talk to you.
See you, Grub.
Theo Zographos, Monash Councillor, and the US elections, always a fascinating subject. Coming up next, a fascinating person. Well, I think she is anyway. She's replacing my brother Richard today.